This video will show you how to replace the rear sealed wheel bearing assembly on a Chrysler Town & Country. This will be located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. Now once you've completed that, you're going to remove all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel out of place. Now that we have the wheel out of position, we have a clear view of our rear brakes and our rear brake caliper. Let's start here. Now we will have to dislodge the caliper, so let's start by pushing back our caliper piston. This can simply be done using a small pry bar or coming in between the caliper and the brake pad. I'm going to gently start prying the caliper outward. Now once you have a little bit of movement here, this is exactly what we're looking for. We'll continue on along the back side. Now along the backside here, we can see our ABS wheel speed sensor wiring. We're going to start dislodging it from its mounting bracket here. Now this just has a small plastic push clip. I'm using a trim tool to remove it. You can also use pliers or even a flat blade screwdriver if necessary. Now your new part will come with a new clip. We're not worried about damaging it. Let's follow it in this direction. Now right here there's a plastic clip. Mine was already dislodged, but I just resecured it so I can show you how to remove this. Now this does have a small locking tab on it. I'm using a small pocket screwdriver. Underneath that locking tab it should want to separate for me. That's exactly what we need. Now in this area, the plastic clip has 2 small locking ears, so I'm using my thumbs to carefully pull them apart from each other so I can slide this out of position. Let's continue up the flex hose here. We have another mounting point. And now if I pull this out of the way, we can see one more mounting point here before it makes its way underneath the center of the vehicle here. For this one, we're just taking hold of the cable and we'll slide it out of the bracket. Now from under the vehicle, we'll continue on with the removal of the ABS wheel speed sensor wire from its mounting points. You're going to find that there's several areas that it's held to our brake line. Just go ahead and carefully pull it out of position. Got another one here. So now the ABS wire goes up and over our exhaust since we're on the passenger side. Obviously on the driver's side you won't have to contend with this. On my application I do have some wire ties holding this in place. You might also have plastic brackets. Since I have wire ties, I'm just going to cut these out of position. We'll dispose of these properly. Now let's focus on the electrical connector. As you look closely at this, you're going to find you have a red locking tab. This needs to be pulled away, and then you have a secondary locking tab just next to it. For this, I'm using a small pocket screwdriver. I'll attempt to pry this out of place. Now that I have that slid, I'm going to press on that second locking tab. If you find that you can't press it and dislodge this, you could use your small pocket screwdriver on the opposite end and pry up on the opposite side of that locking tab. See if I can squeeze that. Now once you have it disconnected, you have to look at both ends. We're looking for corrosion. Obviously the side that's attached to the vehicle is the most important side. This looks good, so let's continue on. Now once you've removed all the mounting points, we should be able to slide that out of position. At this point, we're done under the vehicle for now. Let's make our way out from under the vehicle. Now from out here along the back side of the brakes, we can see our brake rotor here. We're looking for our hardware is holding the caliper in place. Now we do not need to remove the caliper from the bracket. We're going to remove the entire bracket from the area. Looking up along the top area here, we have an 18mm headed mounting bolt. This bolt not only holds the caliper bracket, but it also holds the e-brake bracket as well. I'm going to fully remove this. We'll swing that emergency brake cable bracket out of the way, and then I'm just going to start it back in a couple threads before continuing on to the lower piece of hardware. I'm using an 18mm. Let's get that next piece of hardware down at the bottom. We can see our next 18mm headed mounting bolt. Now you can tell the caliper bracket does move around quite a bit. I'm holding onto it. Let's fully remove both of those mounting bolts. We can dislodge the caliper. We'll carefully set it aside. There's that one. Now we can remove our brake rotor. At this point, we can focus on removing the wheel bearing. Now we can start removing our 4 pieces of hardware holding the wheel bearing in place. We can see the threaded portion here, but we actually have to come from the inboard side. There's a couple slots that we can come in with our socket. Now as I start looking through the back side here, through these ports, we can see each piece of hardware. Now on my application, as I look closely, it looks as though one of my bolts is a different size than the other 3. So for the one that is different, on my application, I'm using a 15. Other than that, we're using 16mm. There's our first piece of hardware. So I got on the next bolt down here. If you are planning on reusing the bearing, you want to be careful not to cause any damage during the removal process. Now to remove the wheel bearing, there's several different ways of doing so. We have this type of wheel bearing removal tool, so that's what I'll be using. On this application, I'm going to be taking the base plate and bringing it over towards my bearing. Now I'm going to install my 2 lug nuts where the base plate holds it up against the bearing hub. We will go ahead and bottom these out and make sure they're snug. Now with this tool, it has a driver. The driver needs to press up against something, so I'm going up against the bracket that holds my caliper bracket in place. During this process, I want to be careful not to cause any damage to that bracket. Try to center that up as much as possible here. Now as you can see, this is starting to separate here. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Now since I do have this broken free, I'm just going to remove the tool and we'll continue on removing this by hand. Now you're going to find as you start removing this, the backing plate will come off with it, and that's okay. We'll just fully remove the backing plate from the backside. Now at this point, we have to remove the backing plate from along the ABS wheel speed sensor wire, so we'll just draw it right out of there. A quick inspection of the backing plate. This looks good. And there it is, friend. Obviously, it's your vehicle. Clean it as well as you deem fit. We want to make sure it's a nice flat mating surface. Now we'll just have a quick look at the backing plate. Not too much to see here, but of course we do have mounting surfaces along the front and the rear. Let's prepare to install our wheel bearing. We need to take our ABS wire and slide it through the backing plate first. Slide that straight through. Now, of course, we do want to make sure that matches up with the corresponding slot on the backing plate. And now we can get this in place. We'll continue on with our hardware from the inboard side. Now that I have this lined up, I'm starting in all 4 of my mounting bolts. I like to make sure I start them all in before I snug any of them. Once I do have them all started in, the torque for these will be 41 foot-pounds. They're all started in. Let's go ahead and bottom it out. We can torque these, like I mentioned, to that 41 foot-pounds. They're all started in. Let's go ahead and torque them to that 41 foot-pounds. Now let's just double check to make sure that's properly secured in place. It should not move around in any way. Now with that fully mounted, we'll use some anti-seize on the wheel bearing hub. This is the mating surface. It's going to go up against our brake rotor. Now we're looking at what would be the inboard side of our brake rotor. We need to clean the mating surface here. While we're doing that, we might as well clean the braking surface as well. I'm going to use some parts cleaner and a clean rag. Of course, if you do have any rust buildup, you can clean that off as well. Let's get this brake rotor in place. Now, while I have it in place, I'm holding it there using one of my original lug nuts. Now we can get our caliper in place. We're going to carefully take this, slide it over the brake rotor. Now, once you have it fully aligned, we have our 2 mounting bolts from along the backside. We have our 2 mounting bolts for the caliper bracket. We'll start them both in. Now I'm going to start in the second mounting bolt. After that, we can snug these up and torque them. Let's get the top one started in as well. At this point, I have both of the mounting bolts started in. I'm going to snug them up and torque them to 74 foot-pounds. That. Let's make our way down to the lower hardware. Now that I have that torqued, we're down along the bottom. We'll snug and torque this as well. Let's torque that to that 74 foot-pounds as well. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Let's start focusing on securing our ABS wire. We're looking at the emergency brake cable bracket. This should slide right in. Just press it straight in there as far as possible. Now we'll start following the wiring in this direction towards our brake flex hose. We have a couple different mounting points to align this with. Slide that through, lock it down. These can pivot if necessary. Typically you should be able to just slide the ABS wire into the corresponding area. Now there is a push clip on this area, but we don't necessarily need that push clip. You can cut it off or just go ahead and use the rubber along the side of it. It presses into this bracket here. Continuing on, we're going to start making our way underneath the vehicle so we can continue on with the rest of the mounting points. Now as we make our way under, we have our next mounting point. If this doesn't align, you can slide the clip if necessary. We're just pressing it in. Now this wire does have to go up and over our exhaust since we're on the passenger side, and of course we're going to secure it. I'm going to use some wire ties. So now that we have it over the exhaust, let's go ahead and reconnect the connector here. Pressing it in, listening for a click from that, a light tug to confirm it's secured. Now we're going to make sure it's locked in using our red locking tab. Press that all the way in. Just one more confirmation there. Now this clip does actually go onto the brake line. We can see that it should be able to slide right on. Now this can move as necessary. We need to secure the rest of the wiring so it's not going to hit up against the exhaust. You can put these wire ties wherever you deem fit. The point of this is really just making sure that we do not touch up against the exhaust. One last quick confirmation while we're under the vehicle, and we can make our way out from under here. Now it's time to prepare to reinstall the wheel. Get this lug nut off of here. Now we're going to get the wheel in place. Once we have it up there, we'll go ahead and start on all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. We're going to bottom them out. We'll get the wheel back on the ground. The torque for each lug nut will be 100 foot-pounds. Now that I've got the wheel back on the ground, we can go ahead and torque these lug nuts in a crisscross manner to that 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. Now the next thing you need to do is make your way into the passenger compartment. You're going to pump up the brake pedal till it feels firm, take your vehicle for a road test, listen for odd noises, and make sure you have no ABS light. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.